Off the Record is a show from 88.1 WKNC in which DJs talk with artists about everything from their music to upcoming tours to former bandmates' birthdays. Make sure to follow WKNC on SoundCloud and Tumblr so you never miss a beat. Enjoy.
Hi, thank you. You are Adam Ostrar from Austin, Texas.
United States.
United States. I forgot to include that. Thank you for being here with us today.
You're welcome.
Stopping right in on the very first day of your short tour, where you're going to be playing in Raleigh this evening. So as we mentioned, you're from Austin, Texas.
Yes.
You just came in. How was your traveling?
It was a direct flight. It was not very turbulent. I managed to get both my guitar and the amplifier that I brought in the overhead compartment.
Nice. I was actually going to ask, are you playing alone, or how'd the rest of the band get their stuff?
Oh no, I'm alone.
Ooh.
Yeah. I normally tour alone.
Okay.
Yeah. And if I'm close enough to Texas, then I'll drive myself.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if I'm on the East Coast or West Coast, I usually will sort of fly in and then rent a car, and drive, and then go back to the airport and then fly home.
And you have about a line of 10 dates on this round, right?
I only got 7 on this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a full week. Is it gonna get lonely just being yourself out here?
Well, I'm paying lots of money to bring Carl on the first 3 dates with me, old friend from Charlottesville, Virginia. He's expensive, but mental health is very important.
Absolutely. I mean, 4 days of loneliness is fine, but 7 too much.
Yeah. It does get lonely sometimes. I do tour by myself frequently, and these drives are pretty short. But I just did a Midwestern thing, and so those drives are considerably longer. They feel longer.
Because they're a lot more boring. They're just
very
flat road.
boring. It's not. Yeah, it's like gray, flat roads, and
not nice.
Dilapidated
gray
farmhouses.
Wouldn't be what I would have pictured, though. I was thinking more like orange, the desert.
Oh, I'm talking about the Midwest. Yeah.
Oh.
But Texas is pretty. It's more brown than orange in most parts. I'd have to say.
North Carolina's pretty orange. We've got that clay.
Yeah.
Red clay.
Yeah. What's that about?
I don't really know. It's kind of like a thing, though. Wherever you go, there's always going to be red clay, whether it's the mountains or sea level. Is
it extra? Do you ever try eating it? Is there some extra nutrients?
I've never tried eating it, but I swear in Asheville, there's a dime a dozen clay potters because of that.
Of course.
Obviously, since you have Carl, who lives in North Carolina, do you tour here frequently?
Last time I played here was, oh boy, do you remember that? It was not. It may have been within the last year. Yeah, Chaz. We played with my friend Jerry David DeSica, who is another singer-songwriter from Texas. We did a little East Coast tour. We ended up playing at Jazz's Bull City Records.
Nice.
Saying that correctly.
Do you have any North Carolina musicians that you've played with in the past that you just really enjoyed?
Boy, I'd have to think pretty far back to when I lived in Charlottesville, which would have been in the mid to late 90s. I mean, we had a lot of bands come up from this area,
I mean, namely, right around the corner in Durham is Merge Records, and they were founded by the Superchunk.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've definitely seen a bunch of their bands. I can't remember. I think I've shared bills with everyone at that time.
I mean, when you're growing up together, you're small together.
Right. Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming back. We're excited to talk about the show in School Kids in Raleigh. I don't know why I'm talking plurally, but it is I am so excited that you're here to talk about yourself with us.
More people who are excited about talking about this.
Who are you playing with tonight?
His name's Jordan Moser. He's also from Austin.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Just sheer coincidence?
It's not a coincidence, actually. All this happened very last minute. I had a show. My first show of this tour was supposed to be in Baltimore.
Okay.
And then I found out about a week and a half ago that show fell through. And so since I'm going to give a big shout out to Southwest Airlines here, because they let you change your ticket for a small penalty or no penalty at all, actually. I was just able to reroute since I was going to be in Charlotte tomorrow. I would come here and visit Carl, who lives here, and Carl was very proactive and tried to get me a show here at the
Yeah.
last minute. So that's how I ended up being at School Kids. And then
School Kids is a good place. They
this is good. Okay.
yeah,
Looks cool.
they're a great line of record stores. There's one here, one in Durham. I believe there might be a third also in Chapel Hill, the Triangle. But they frequently do both local and touring shows. It's a bit of a small stage because it's in the record store, but really respectful, really responsible people. It'll be cool.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm very gracious that they agreed to do this at the last minute.
Of course.
Yeah. And then this other songwriter who's playing tonight, Jordan, is he's doing a tour. I think he's driving actually across the South, and was in Durham tonight without a gig. And one of our mutual friends saw I was playing and thought wouldn't hurt to ask to get
might as well.
Jordan on the bill, and so that happened. And
that worked out really, really well.
Yeah.
Friends in high and low places all across the Triangle. So because you're both from Austin, would you say that the two of you have a similar music style, or would this be a bit of a varied bill?
It'll be varied.
Okay. What do you consider yourself to be? I know I asked that question a few minutes ago, and you were like, "Oh, I don't know."
No, I'm pretty into various styles of music, but I try and work mostly with songwriting formats, So I would have to say I'm a singer-songwriter, but I really like sort of experimental singer-songwriters that still manage to kind of keep the boundaries on the songs, like Robert Wyatt and
I was just about to say
Kevin
any
Ayers,
artist you can
John
name drop.
Cale, a lot of stuff from the 60s and 70s that were sort of a little bit left field, but whose records are sort of sonically interesting, and so that's my thing.
Which I guess leads me perfectly into my next question. In 2019, as I'm sure you're aware, in pop music culture, there's a heavy emphasis on like post-production and like hyping up a song and things. I would argue that the age of singer-songwriters is coming to a bit of an end, especially with like corporate like ghostwriters and things like that. As a singer-songwriter in the year 2019, how do you make yourself either relevant or interesting to a developing audience?
I guess I'm so far off the radar in the circles that I operate in that I don't even all that stuff is sort of operates in a different world than we're
It really is.
Yeah.
Having corporate money is a whole other league.
Right. It's gotten I've had to get used to streaming, the adjustment to streaming music, and how distributing your music through streaming services can be a big
It can help and hurt. There's definitely a dual-edged sword to that.
Yeah, it's like a currency, though. I feel like when you're trying to book shows and
how many streams do you have?
Right.
Exactly.
Everything is extremely transparent.
Extremely.
to
Haha.
to venues and people in the business that that you might be asking favors from, such as can I have a show here on such and such, and
Exactly.
they're just at at their fingertips is
It's
like
numeric street cred.
yeah, and having toured a lot previous to this current era, it could be a thing where you reach out to a venue and the person who's in charge of booking it, just happens to listens to your music and likes it and goes, well, I think they would fit well on this bill, and boom, there you go,
Would you say that you still have I guess I would say lingering effects from touring prior to the streaming age?
Yeah, I mean, it's taken me a while to sort of readjust.
Of course, yeah.
Things are different, and I stopped touring for a chunk of time. I had a kid and just
that'll do it.
Just wasn't able to do it. So it's so getting back into it. I've been doing it for the last 2 or 3 years, and sort of there's still a network of venues and good people who are not operating in that headset or that mindset or
don't take that into account exclusively.
Exactly, like they're they're curating their venue. They're concerned about good music
I do think you'll find at least a similar attitude at school kids.
Great.
I mean, record stores, as you know, are dying out for similar reasons. So
Yeah, exactly.
the lingering ones have to be good at what they do, or they're not.
Right. Yeah. You want to go somewhere you can trust that if there's music, or if they're selling music, that it's curated and it's going to be something that you might be interested in, take a chance on.
Right. And the next date that you're playing is in Charlotte at the Milestone. That's kind of another place that I would compare to School Kids. Obviously, incredibly different venues, because School Kids is a store, a record store, like just in that like business environment. Whereas the Milestone is, as I described, behind the scenes, a basement. It's a hole in the wall.
Great.
It is.
I started at a basement.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's you'll definitely get some 90s vibes from this place.
All right.
And that's going to sound really corny coming from a millennial, but you're going to walk in, the place is plastered with stickers and memorabilia going back for decades. There is no AC. It is gross and old.
Oh, good.
This bar is like shoved in the corner, and you're like, am I going to survive this show? You will. The Milestone has been around forever.
Okay.
It's one of the long-standing.
I brought a onesie. Is that appropriate to wear in a place without a basement without air conditioning?
It'll be fine. It's
Okay.
like they prop the door open, or they have like an electric fan.
Okay, that's very
Yeah.
90s to wear to wear onesies. They called them ninesies back then.
Ninesies.
Yeah.
It's not a basement in the sense that it's underground.
Okay.
But you're gonna walk in and be like, this is a basement.
Right,
It's
I hear
like
you.
that's just the feel that you're going to get.
Okay.
Where else are you going on this tour?
I'm going to Charlottesville.
Completely different
where-
from Charlotte.
Different. And that's where I used to live there in the 90s. So I've got a bunch of friends there that I've kept in touch with over the years. I'm playing at a place called Low Vintage. And then I'm off to DC, Riazome, then Somerville, Massachusetts at Union Tavern, Kingston, New York at the Beverly Lounge, and then I'm playing a really cool show in Queens at the Footlight Bar. God, I'm gaslighting on the mind.
Your gas lights on.
We're all gaslighting each other these days. But no, for real, the Footlight Bar, and I'm playing with I'm playing with Hamish Kilgore from The Clean and his band. I'm playing with Kid Millions, Jim Saunter. Kid used to play in a band called No Nida, still does. Anyway, good show to go out on.
Definitely sounds like a good one. Sadly, it's all the way up in New York.
Yeah.
But
you guys can't drive.
I'll just
there.
astral project over there. I would be there if I could. Now, I
that.
believe you're on the tour cycle for your album, The Worried Coat.
Yep.
When did this come out?
It came out in April of this
April,
year.
so it's pretty fresh.
It is.
Talk to me about the album iconography. Is it your dog on the front?
No. We recorded part of the record in Mexico City. And then the second half of the record we recorded in a studio that's out in the desert, sort of outside of Tucson by about 45 miles.
So talk to me about your recording style. Why those two locations?
Mexico City was...
and you have a song called Kansas City.
Yeah. Unrelated to...
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes there's crossover between reality and fantasy. but Mexico City. There's a studio there that the label wanted to send us to, which they had a connection with, and it was the first time I ever recorded in a different country, and it was great. I mean, it's a really cool part of Mexico City, and then great engineers, great studios. The studios are relatively cheaper. Then that studio
really
here would have been
outsource
super
you.
expensive. They outsourced me. They outsourced me.
Oh man!
I never thought about it that way.
Bring
but
our
that's exactly,
singer-songwriters back to America.
That's right. Right. What's going on? I didn't even think about that. That's really something. All right, I got material for the next record.
There you go.
Yeah.
You're a corporate shill now.
I know. Jeez.
So who are you signed to? Corporate shill?
The record came out on Super Secret Records, which is an Austin label.
Very, very cool. So are you very involved in the Austin local music scene?
Somewhat. I've only been there for 5 years. I was in Chicago for 15 years before that. So I still feel kind of new to Austin, although I definitely know quite a few folks in the music scene there, and have good feelings about living there?
I am in contact with a college radio station just outside of Austin. They're called KTSW. I believe they're 89.9, but don't quote me on that.
Okay.
They're in San Marcos University.
Oh, in San Marcos. Yeah, sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
so highly recommend. Apparently, they have a very strong local music rotation, according to my friends who work there.
Right.
So if you're interested in like finding out new stuff, they may be the place to go. I'm a
Okay.
little biased. College radio is my thing.
Yeah.
But I
Sure.
highly recommend.
Okay.
So in terms of making this record, it came out in April. How long did it take to make?
We were in Mexico City for about 5 days, and then a couple months went by, and then we were at the studio for about another 5 days, and then so it's done in 2 chunks, and then it came together pretty quickly. I mean, it was mixed and mastered within a pretty reasonable amount of time. So I think the whole thing probably took like 3 or 4 months from beginning to end.
That's not bad.
Not bad. We worked really quickly.
Yeah, I can tell. And it goes really quickly. It's just a 12-song album. I haven't seen in a long time someone do side A and side B on the CD description.
Right, yeah.
And then
yeah.
it's also
You have to
songs
flip the
1
CD.
through 6 and 1 through 6 again.
Yeah, you have to flip the CD over.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
You're an innovator.
Right.
This reminds me of this Jack White interview that he did with, I believe, Stephen Colbert. I might be wrong, when he released that record, Lazaretto. And he called himself such an innovator because when you flip the record, it plays from the inside out.
I like that. That is
Creative, I guess.
That's true.
Oh, Jack White.
Yeah.
He does
He
press
does,
his own records
yeah.
through Third Man.
Yeah.
And the Raconteurs just dropped an album. I'm insanely excited for that. I have a huge crush on Jack White, even though he's old and disgusting now.
Hey, watch it. It's when the ages thing, you know.
The ages thing, you're right.
I'm probably older than Jack White.
I'm not so sure about that.
I don't know.
He's
Am
probably
I?
aged quicker just because of how bare
No, we'll
he
say
is.
he's not. I like to just think that everyone's 50 so that I feel younger.
There
You know how
go.
you can just to project my own, like as I get older and older, I'm just like, well, that guy's probably 50 or so. What do you think?
My
babe?
mom stopped counting her age at this point.
Okay.
Really and truly, so you're not alone. It is
You're comparing me to
A-okay.
your mom's age. That's
Shut
all
up
right.
to
That's
my
right.
mom. Actually, she's probably older than you.
Okay. Well, can we change this? What's next on your question?
There we go. Don't worry. I got it. We're not going to talk about my mom.
No.
I actually asked you earlier whose dog this was, and we got sidetracked.
Oh, right. So, so the studio is out on this like artist community ranch that started in like the 70s or 80s, and so there's all these little houses around, and then there's like this main hacienda that was built probably in like the 1920s or so, and that's where the studio is, and so a bunch of people live on the property and have dogs, and that dog just kept like wandering in throughout the session and just sort of became part of the scenery. And you know, we would be tracking and he would just lay down on the floor, right in the middle of
Get
the
any
tracking
panting
session.
in the backtracks?
There's probably a little panting in there.
I'm into it as long as it's rhythmic.
You have to listen to it on the headphones, but you can hear it in there. But we all kind of crushed out on this dog. He's just the coolest guy.
And the front cover artwork almost looks like it's been made into a painting.
Well, I took it. That's actually just a picture that I took on my phone.
Was it edited at all?
It's got some filters on it, but it definitely looks like an oil painting to me.
It does.
Yeah, it came out really, really sort of as if like a still life, like oil painting type.
The
thing,
dog's fur like blends into itself,
Mhm.
probably just because the texture.
Mm.
Which at this point I encourage the audience to go look up Adam Ostrar, The Worried Coat, so that you can really follow along with what we're talking about.
Right.
Otherwise, you're just going to think of a dog in Mexico City, and I don't know if that's quite accurate. What about the back photo? Was that taken?
That's inside of this. That's inside the studio.
Right, the
Yeah.
hacienda in Mexico City.
Actually, this is in. I'm talking about the place that's in that's
Austin?
It's in Oracle. The second studio we recorded at was in Oracle, Arizona, which is like an hour outside of Tucson. Maybe it's out in the Sonoran Desert. Yeah, the name of the studio is a Droom Studio with 3 O's, DROOOM, and it's run by a friend of mine named Wally. And he's in a great band called Slow Moses. So
Nice.
check out Slow Moses.
And how much of the equipment did you use in this photo? There's like a huge amp
Marshall
stack.
stacks.
Yep.
The great thing is that
And then there's like some bongos in the corner.
yeah, if you had the LP version, you could look at the insert, and there's like, I don't think it's in the. I think the insert in there is doesn't have all the photographs that are in the LP, but there's all sorts of Marshall half stacks and big old classic rock gear. But we actually brought like really tiny amplifiers.
Nice.
But
It's
there
all
are
for the
but
scenery.
the weird little like percussion stuff ended up on there. There's a lot of sort of esoteric little shakers and rattlers and,
Yeah, yeah.
bells and stuff.
And who are the other two gentlemen in these photos?
My two of my good friends that I play with are Will Hendricks. He lives in Oakland, California, and he's been I've been making records with him for quite a while. He was in a band of mine called Manischewitz, and he's been on my previous 2 solo records also. And then Stephen Patterson is the guy. I think he's playing some bells in that picture. He's plays percussion and drums with me. He's another guy from Austin. Yeah.
And how did you get connected to these two? Obviously, the other one lives in Austin, but the one who's from Oakland, California.
Okay, so this takes us way back to when I lived in Chicago. I had just moved there from Charlottesville, and I put out a Manischewitz record, which was one of my early bands on Jaguar Records. And when I moved to Chicago, had written a bunch of new songs and was looking for someone to record them with and kind of help me put a band together to make the record. And Chris Swanson from Jaguar, he's one of the label owners, put me in touch with this guy, Michael Krasner, who owned a recording studio called Truck Stop Records. And so he organized the band that ended up being on that record. Will was part of the band. Will actually still lived in California at the time, but came in to work on that one.
Very cool.
And I should mention that Michael, I still work with Michael Krasner. He engineered and records all my stuff. He lives in Phoenix now, but he was with us in Mexico City and was with us in Oracle, Arizona, and so he's still part of every record.
I think it's really cool that you're, for lack of a better phrase, such a seasoned musician, being that you've toured in a bunch of different acts and have done several different recording cycles for various projects and with various people. What's one thing about the music industry that you think has changed since you were in like some of your earlier projects?
Well,
And what's one thing that you wish hadn't changed? Let's do that.
You know, I don't want to, it's hard because I don't want to sound like a bitter old musician.
Yeah.
You know? So I want to try and embrace the things that are different, and just learn how to adapt.
I mean, you seem to have rolled with it with our previous discussion regarding streaming and things. So
yeah.
Preferring the past doesn't mean that you hate the
true.
current place.
That's true. And who knows how long the current thing is going to be current for, you know.
It's exciting and daunting at the same time. Things move so quickly.
Yeah, it's weird to think that, you know, not too long ago, people were downloading music from iTunes, and that was the death of physical records. And now, you know, even iTunes sort of discourages you from
you don't want to pay $129 anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
You just need to, you know, they just want that you to stream off of.
You want it instantly.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So that time when you downloaded music already seems like part of history, short period of history, when it seemed like it was going to be the future.
Exactly.
So I don't know. I guess what do I miss? You know, I guess I'd have to go back and just say that I feel like musicians used to have more direct relationship with venues, and there seems to be more middlemen involved these days, like promoters and stuff like that. You know, like if you contact venues directly, you know, often they'll just say, well, this promoter is handling the show, so you know, we have to talk to the promoter, or you get in touch with the promoter or something like that. You know, and I used to feel like when I would tour and we would book, it was just sort of one of these things where like the venues had much more control over the curating the shows themselves.
Now you see like pay to play shows, like
Oh, sure. Yeah.
oh yeah. Like I don't know if that's been a thing for a while, but it's the scourge of the local scene down here. I'd
Is
say.
it really? Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
I also personally have a small vendetta against a couple pay to play like promotional companies that I will not name at this time.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I just don't see that as inclusive and enjoyable for the entire time.
Right.
It's also kind of putting the musicians out on a whim of like having to like go door to door begging their friends and being like, hey, I don't get to play this show unless you buy tickets beforehand.
Really, that happens. Okay.
Yeah, that's what like pay to play is. Like the promotional company will like put all of the money down to rent a larger venue, and they're like, we're going to promote it everywhere. Like people will be there. But then they're like, but because we're doing you so much of a favor putting this together, you need to secure $100 worth of tickets that we know like you have a fan base that you're bringing in.
Wow.
And so it's like you have to pay first.
Mm-hmm.
Or like you don't play, or they don't book with you in the past. And it's like if you don't reach that max selling to other people, oftentimes the bands will have to cover it. And so it's like, all right, if you make $50 off this gig, but you put down $100 in the first place, like
that's like LA in the 90s, like the hair metal scene, you know, where there was a lot of that going on.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you, and my friend Carl, who's sitting in the room with us here, can attest to is how many empty room shows you would see, you know, that were life changing, you know, or just that, you know, showing up at a place and being and seeing somebody for, you know, in a room full of 10 people, you know, that would have like a very influential effect on you. And then, you know, maybe the next time they came through, you know, were playing in front of a bunch more people, but you had that intimate experience with them, or you saw that happen. And, you know, so if you know, venues aren't going to take risks on bands before they already have some sort of buzz about them, then that's gone, you know. It
seems counterintuitive though, right? Like how are bands supposed to garner that buzz?
Right.
If they can't like break in somewhere.
I don't know. And it creates a lot of artificial
absolutely
sort of you know,
it discourages growth and community.
Right.
Because bands can't grow if they're not making money. Exactly. Integrity too, that's a whole thing to unpack in its own.
Yeah, it really is.
Well, what's one thing that you do like about these days?
Jeez.
Not trying to like put you in a box of curmudgeon-y.
Right. I think it's a democratic time to be music.
Yeah.
You know, at least being able to I think, you know, it used to be like more stressful to record. The idea of coming up with money to go into a recording studio used to be what would be intimidating about making a record.
Right.
You know, it used to seem like the big leap, you know, if you were a band and you wanted to make an album, was like, okay, how are we going to, you know, get into a studio and pay for a studio and everything. You know, and now it's just so cheap to record, and you know, I'm not saying that it always sounds good, but
it takes like no money to put something up on Bandcamp.
And then and then you can distribute it. You know,
you don't need to burn CDs and pass them out anymore.
Yeah. So
I know things.
So I like that. You know, I think that's really cool. You know?
Yeah, it to a degree it makes up for the venues and promoters and things that don't want to take a chance on smaller acts.
Right.
Streams, as much as you mentioned earlier, are kind of like a digital currency.
Yeah.
They can also be inclusive in the sense where anyone can go out and put their stuff on social media and be like, check it out. And if it's good, it'll take off.
Sure.
And that's how it's supposed to work.
That's true.
Yes, it doesn't always work like that. But yeah, thank you so much for talking to me today. Your show at School Kids, obviously this interview won't go up until after the show's already happened, but just for interest's sake, what time is it? Where is it? Who's playing? One more time.
Yeah, so it starts at 7 at School Kids Records here in Raleigh, and My Austin singer-songwriter buddy Jordan Moser is also playing. I'm not sure, this came together so quickly that we haven't figured out the order of who's playing first or who's playing last, but
A 2-band bill, is there really a headliner?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Who's headlining, especially when they're both from out of town.
Exactly.
And there's always the chance that we'll both play simultaneously.
There you go. You can just switch off one song after another.
No, I mean simultaneously.
Oh,
yeah,
sick.
Yeah. So
a little
that
freestyle
happens, and
collab.
that's something that I'm trying out these days. It's not easy.
It's
you
not
really have to
easy.
tune the other person out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, thank you for talking to me today. I hope you have a great show tonight.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely.